My name is Jose Perez. I'm the Assistant Director for the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division. The FBI, along with our partners in Homeland Security Investigations, were designated as the co-lead agency in the establishment of the Homeland Security Task Force. So the Homeland Security Task Force, or the HSTF, was the concept that came from the executive order from the White House to eliminate the presence of cartels, to go after criminal cartels around the world and the United States, cartels eventually designated as foreign terrorist organizations. So the FBI and HSI, along with our other federal partners, to include DEA, ATF, Customs and Border Protection, some of the other federal agencies, we're really bringing together a group for the first time in a unified front to create an environment, create a process and standardization how we're going to accomplish exactly that request, which is to eliminate the cartels. Cartels are incredibly diversified in what they do. So probably the primary mechanism for cartels to proliferate would be drug trafficking. Again, fentanyl has reached epidemic proportions. Cocaine is still at significantly high numbers. Synthetic drugs across the board are trafficked really in a worldwide sense. It's not just a U.S. problem, it's a worldwide problem, the drug trafficking piece. So the cartels make a significant amount of money from drug trafficking. However, we've seen cartels make money through fraud schemes like timeshare fraud schemes, through extortion, through more sophisticated cyber-enabled type fraud schemes. Really anywhere there's an ability for cartels to make money, they're going to make money. So we are not focused on one particular type of crime. We're focused on the actors themselves, in this case the criminal cartels or transnational gangs. We're focused on their activity, their illicit activity. So whatever we can do to leverage that through state, local, federal law enforcement to bring those perpetrators to justice, depending on what types of crimes they do, that's the environment that we're in the HSTF. It really is just a collaborative environment where we're not bound by one particular agency's unique authority or limited authority. We have pretty much broad authority, bringing all those agencies together. They are sophisticated. They operate as organizations with a hierarchy, with a structure. To combat that, really one of the best tools we have now is the ability to look at these organizations as true threats to this country, as foreign terrorist organizations. That was accomplished through the executive order. What that really has allowed us to do is create a unified front from federal law enforcement to go after the cartels, to leverage the tools that exist to the government to fight things like terrorism, so that we're not just focusing specifically on one type of crime or even one type of group. It really fosters, again, a whole of government approach so that we're looking at all elements of a sophisticated organization, to include how they're trafficking their illegal products like fentanyl throughout the United States, how they're profiting, how they're moving their money in return back to the source countries to proliferate the organizations themselves through money laundering schemes, fraud schemes, a variety of ways. So we're taking a sophisticated approach to tackle a sophisticated problem. Criminal cartels have tremendous impact throughout the United States. Their impact is felt far and wide. We're focusing a lot on cartels with influence through the southwest border, coming out of Mexico, coming out of other parts of Central America as well. Also, some of the cartel activity that occurs in South America and really other parts of the world. But the effect is not tied to just a border area. It's felt far and wide. It's felt throughout the United States. So it's felt in far reaches 3,000 miles away from the border. Things like fentanyl, other crimes, in addition to the actual harm of the drug itself, like fentanyl, causing overdoses, causing deaths around the country, the factions that support that domestically, whether they be violent organizations or gangs that are really an extension of what the cartels are doing through the distribution of those drugs, the impact of that is really devastating to communities, whether it's through extortion or crimes of violence to establish control in a particular area, or again, as I mentioned, the impact of fentanyl itself. The fentanyl overdoses has been really at epidemic proportions in the last several years. So the effects really run rampant. In addition to that, as the cartels proliferate, it drives things like corruption, drives instability in certain areas, undermines the rule of law in areas around the country. So the effects really go on, and it could be devastating impact. There's definitely a model approach here. Matter of fact, the HSTF concept was modeled more or less after the Joint Terrorism Task Force concept, in that through the FBI, which has been leading the JTTF for years, the HSTF environment created an ability to singularly focus kind of on one enemy specifically, the way terrorism does. Bring all the government efforts together, whole of government approach to look specifically at where the targets are, where the enemy is, how they operate, how they proliferate, and then attack those same elements to attack, again, how they're importing their product, how they're proliferating, how they're making money. We've modeled this concept essentially after the terrorism task force concept. So conversely, yeah, this concept from the HSTF, we could model this, or really as we're all working together, there's an environment created through this where we're sitting side by side with DEA, with HSI, with ATF, with all our partners. There's an ability there to take from that, to share that information, create an environment where we're learning from each other. And from there, we can pretty much tackle any type of law enforcement problem.